The story of Timon of Athens takes place 400 years before Christ was born. Timon of Athens was a man generous like no others before him. He gave freely of his riches to all that would have them. He was fond of parties and held them at his estate quite often. Flavius, his steward, was dismayed and distraught whenever a party was held by the utter lack of care that Timon had for the expense of hosting these parties. Flavius remembered a friend of Timon's by the name of Apemantus, who often remarked on the fact that Timon let others take advantage of his generosity and didn't even realize it. Everyone loved Timon for his generosity and praised him frequently. There was a jeweler that claimed that Timon perfected a diamond simply by wearing it, and Timon gifted this diamond to his friend Sempronius. Lucullus, a friend of Timon's, was gifted a wonderful horse, and many other residents of Athens sung the praises of Timon. Apemantus was not impressed by the praise lavished upon Timon by the other Athenians, and remarked that they were all liars. He even made a joke to the effect, though it went right over Timon's head. Apemantus was well known for being an extreme misanthrope, though it did not affect his mental health. Timon became even worse than Apemantus after quarter day, which is a day when all must pay their bills. Most people will save their money to ensure that they have enough for quarter day, but Timon did not. He had spent his money frivolously and lavished gifts on his friends and all around him. When quarter day came, he did not have enough money, so he ordered Flavius to borrow the money from his friends who would surely support him in his time of need. So Flavius traveled to Ventidius, a young man that Timon had lent money to as a way to get him out of prison. Timon sent many servants to many of his friends, all asking for monetary support in Timon's time of need. Flaminus, another servant of Timon, traveled to Lucullus, who asked after Timon's health. In response, Flaminus told him that Timon was healthy, but that he needed coin to pay his bills, and asked that Lucullus would fill a box with coin for him. Lucullus responded by telling Flaminus that Timon was far too fond of parties, and that he would not lend money on quarter day. He offered money to Flaminus to go back to his master and tell him that Lucullus wasn't home. Flaminus refused. Another of Timon's servants went to Sempronius with the same request. Sempronius asked if they had been to Vestidius, who owed Timon money. When the servant told him that they had, he asked if they had been to see Lucullus. When the servant told him that Lucullus also refused, he pretended to be offended that he was not the first choice, and claimed that he would have lent Timon the money if he had been. He refused on those grounds. Timon was disheartened to find that his friends were not his friends at all. He hatched a plan, and when there was a break between creditors coming to collect payments for him, he decided to invite all of his friends to his home under the pretense of a banquet. When his friends arrived, there was no shame in their eyes, and they assumed that Timon had sent the servants as a joke and all was well. They each made their excuses for not assisting him and gave apologies and compliments, but Timon knew that they were not to be believed. Still, he was polite and pleasant when speaking to them, and brought them to his banquet hall, where he had laid out dishes for food and covered them with cloth. Timon welcomed them to the tables, and then said aloud a prayer to the Grecian gods that his friends would each have enough. In his prayer, he lamented that if the gods borrowed from man, then man would no longer worship them. He prayed that his friends would be blessed by the gods as much as they had blessed him, and he bid his friends to uncover their dishes and lap at them like the dogs they were. When his friends uncovered the dishes, they found that each of the dishes contained no food, only warm water. Timon then cursed them and told them to use the water to wash themselves of the flatteries they had bestowed upon him. He then flung the water and dishes at them, and left Athens with nothing but a shovel. Timon took up residence in a cave by the sea outside of Athens. The only friend that had not betrayed him was a man by the name of Alcibiades, who had not been asked at all. Alcibiades was an enemy of Athens due to his departure long ago. Timon fell deep into misery and hatred, so much so that when he happened upon a vein of gold while digging for food, he lamented it and felt no joy at the discovery. Later, when Alcibiades approached with 2 beautiful women and a host of soldiers, he found Timon still ranting at his discovery, though he did not recognize him at first because he was no longer the Timon that he knew. When Alcibiades recognized Timon, he offered to help him, but Timon refused his help and insulted them. Alcibiades' 2 women noticed the gold and asked Timon for some, and he gave it to them, insulting them all the while. Alcibiades considered Timon lost and left them there while he traveled with his soldiers to Athens. Timon continued to rant and insult any that crossed his path, while also giving them gold whenever they asked for it, until Apemantus came to him. Apemantus chastised Timon for his ways and left him there. Timon was even visited by Flavius, his loyal servant who wanted nothing more than to serve him. Timon turned him away. Eventually, Timon was approached by the government of Athens for his riches, to assist them in their war against Alcibiades. But Timon refused them even when they offered to allow him back into the city and restore his previous status. They returned to Alcibiades and asked that he be merciful. It was then that a messenger interrupted Alcibiades and informed him that Timon was dead. Timon's grave serves as a reminder that ingratitude will turn love into hate. The end.